Welcome to Sunset Drives, my casual conversational video series where I just stick a camera to my head, grab whatever car I'm driving for the week, and pick a topic to talk about. You join me this week. We're in Chicago. We're actually heading to downtown Chicago right now. My youngest brother lives there, and we're gonna go grab dinner. So I figured it'd be a great opportunity to film this week's video. We're in a 2025 Ford Explorer ST heading downtown, and actually I have Blue Cruise on this, so we can go ahead, turn on cruise control. Blue Cruise will be on, and it goes hands-free as I watch the road, and I am absolutely certain that we will hit traffic because it's downtown Chicago, and that is just an inevitability. All right, this week's topic, what are we talking about? The car that I regret selling. And it's appropriate that I'm in a Ford this week because the car I regret selling is a Ford. So we'll do a super quick rundown of all the cars that I've been very, very lucky to own. Since graduating school in 2016, I've had a pretty nice run of enthusiast cars mixed with daily drivers. So the first car I ever bought myself was a Boss 302 Laguna Seca. Graduated college, we're making money off of YouTube. I started an engineering job at Ford, and I was debating between an E92 M3 or the Boss 302, and I'd always been a Mustang person. Growing up, my dad worked at Ford, so he'd take me to take your child to work day, and the Mustang was the cool car they would show off, and that became one of my aspirational dream cars. And the Boss 302 Laguna Seca specifically was the most capable track-focused version of that platform. So Boss 302 Laguna Seca. Then I bought a BMW i8. I had a Audi S4, a B8.5, Audi R8, V10, Spider, gated manual in white. I had an Audi RS7, a Ram 1500, that was a random one. I had a Shelby GT350R, another R8, that's this time a 2018 R8 RWS, my C8 Z06, and most recently an Audi A8L, which has also been sold. I think that's the rundown of all the cars. It's 9 or 10 different cars. And out of all of them that I've sold, everyone has been sold since, other than the Z06. That's the only car I have left. There is one that I regret above all. Take a guess, which one is it? I gave you a little bit of a clue already. It's not the R8. In terms of dollars, the R8 was the one I would regret selling just simply based off of quote-unquote investment, right? Market valuation. I had a gated manual V10 Spider that I bought for $83,000. I sold it for $90. It was oh sweet, I made money on a car. This is awesome. I essentially own an R8 for free. If I had kept it, gated manual V10's probably, that one maybe topped out at $150,000, $160,000, and I think long term they'll still keep going up. So from that regard, that's a regret, but that's not the car I actually regret selling. The one, you may guess it, the Shelby GT350R. And the point of today's video is to talk a bit about why I miss that car so much, why it's so special, why I want to buy one again, but more specifically about some of the lessons I learned from selling a car that I regret and also from owning these different vehicles. In the scheme of things among automotive collectors and YouTubers, I haven't owned a ton of cars. I have friends who've gone through 20 to 30 cars in the same amount of time. Some people who own way higher end cars, supercars, Ferraris, McLarens, Lamborghinis, supercars, hypercars. I have not had that experience, but I have loved and specifically picked every single car I wanted to own, enjoyed it, and I think to me the highest endorsement I can give a car is to pay for it with my own money. Doing this YouTube thing, kind of the realm I am in, I get to drive a lot of different cars, whether it's dealership cars, cars owned by friends or subscribers, or manufacturer press cars. So for example, this car right now, this Explorer ST is from Ford. I have it for a week to drive, create content, experience it, see what it's like compared to other cars. And when I get to drive something and I really, really love it and I want to imagine it in my life and I go buy it, that's when I know that's a special car. And out of all the ones, right, the R8s were really cool. Love the Z06, kept that one. The RS7 was badass. Loved how floaty and big the A8 was. The S4 was a great all-around daily. The Shelby 350R is just so special. That car is remarkable. I first drove a 350R when they were pretty new, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I think I might have been still working at Ford at the time, and I was like, I want to buy one of these. I want to own a 350R. The Boss 302 had been gone by that point. And when I started calling dealers, they all wanted between $15,000 to $20,000 over MSRP. And I was like, this car is awesome at $65,000, $70,000, and 90 grand, I don't know, right? That's pushing it a little bit. And I really just, the principle, I did not want to pay markup, but that's what the market commanded, because it was a desirable vehicle. It was hard to get. It was special, especially as an R model with the carbon wheels, the more aggressive aero, and the rarity. So I didn't buy one. And I waited probably 3 to 4 years. In 2020, June or July of 2020, I got lucky. That's all I can say. I got lucky. I timed the market. They had depreciated. I bought my 350R. I had like 4,000 miles on it for $57,000. So that's what market price was about at that point. I got a decent deal. It was a private seller. Flew down to Florida, bought the car, drove it home. Looking back now, oh my gosh, that's a good deal. You can't find a good R for probably under 70, 75 at this point. Really clean, low mileage ones and desirable specs are pushing $80,000, $90,000 now. But I bought that car and I fell in love with it. I owned it for, how many years I owned that thing? 3 or 4 years, I think. And to me, that was actually the longest I'd ever owned a car. Prior to that, I had the cars for maybe a year and move on. Some of it's just the YouTube thing. You want to keep it fresh. Some of it's my ingrained automotive ADHD. I was like, oh, I want that. Oh, I want that. And I kept wanting to upgrade, right? So I went from i8 to RS7 to R8, just kind of kept trying to get cooler and cooler cars. The R8s were really awesome. A V10 supercar or sports car, whatever you want to call it, was a lot of fun. But the Shelby always was my favorite. Then you might ask, why the heck did you sell it, Eddie? Why would you sell a car that you loved and you said you would keep forever? Well, 3 reasons. First one, I'm an idiot. That was dumb. Second reason, I wasn't driving it. And that's a weird, interesting thing I discovered. It's one of the lessons learned from having owned some of these cars over the years. So when you have multiple cars, it's hard to juggle all of them. I ended up in a situation where I had the R8, the Shelby, and the Z06, and I was ecstatic. That was such a cool mini collection for me, right? I had worked really hard, YouTube and a full-time job, long hours, traded off social life and other aspects of life to get them, and I was really, really happy to have them. But then the reality became kind of apparent where I didn't have time to drive all the cars. I also throw in the variable of press cars. I'd have a car every week or most weeks, and when you have a car from the manufacturer, you kind of got to drive it and do content with it, because that's the whole point. So it was really only special occasions that I could take my own cars out. And then you add in a variable living in Michigan and Chicago where we have winter, so half the year they're not even being driven. For example, when the Z06 was bought, it got sent out to Arizona for break-in miles and to film content and enjoy it, because it was November, December, and it would just gone straight into the garage, and what's the point of getting in the car if you can't drive it? So, the cars were in hibernation for half the year, so those are all kind of downsides of it. But I found myself just not being able to drive my cars enough. The Shelby the last year, I am very ashamed and embarrassed to say, I only drove it like 500-600 miles. It sat there, and I just kind of keeping it out of stubbornness, because I really like the car, and I wanted to hold on to it. Hands are on the steering wheel. Why does Blue Cruise want me to intervene? It's fine, hands on the wheel. So that was the second reason. And the third reason was I was, to be fully transparent, gearing up to sell 2 of the cars, or maybe even all of them. I wanted a V12. I wanted to own a V12. I wanted a Ferrari F12. And a Ferrari F12 is very expensive. They were $250, $275 for a good one at the moment. And I was like, well, if I sell the R8, I sell the Shelby, I think I might be able to do it. I think I'm able to buy a Ferrari F12, and wouldn't that be cool, right? The goal was to own a Ferrari, and here we go. We're already hitting traffic. That is inevitable. Let's see how Blue Cruise does for traffic. That's partially why I sold the Shelby. It was a really hard decision. I'm like, well, I could always buy another one again. Like, those were the thoughts, and I sold it. And now we're, 2 years after that? I wish I'd kept it. Space was also a bit of a challenge. So the takeaways from selling a car, regretting it, is if you ever find yourself in that situation, you let a car go, and you regret it, and you keep thinking about it, that is, again, the highest endorsement possible that that's a truly special car and you should keep it and buy another one and keep it forever. That's my goal now, right? If you sell a car and you don't really think about it or dream about it or miss it or want to buy one again, it means it was probably a nice, cool car. Nothing against it, but not really for you, the right fit. My RS7 was great. I loved the way it looked. It was comfortable. It was fast. It drove nice. It was great, a 2016 RS7. But do I ever think about that car? Not really. The i8 was cool, it was fun at the moment. It was fun, but I don't dream about owning one again. Boss 302 Laguna Seca, nah. The Shelby 350R, I guess this is just this is going to be like a 15-20 minute love note to the 350R. That one is truly special. So if you get a car and you miss it, go find one again, buy it and keep it, because life is short. So that is my plan and my goal. Another lesson I learned is too many cars is not necessarily a good thing. Remember as a kid, I would see people like post their Ferraris for sale or whatever, and I'd be like, why would you own a Ferrari and only put 2,500 miles on it? And me being a naive kid was like, if I had that Ferrari, I would drive it every single day and put all the miles on it. Two factors now looking back at it. One, sometimes people are very concerned about resale value. So obviously miles leads to depreciation, wear and tear, ownership costs, so they want to keep their garage cleans. And I almost never wanted to fall into that pit, and sadly I feel like I have, because of the second factor, which I didn't understand, was a lot of times if you are in a career or a business or something that is allowing you to be able to buy a car like that, you're really busy. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So you don't necessarily have the leisure time to just go take your Ferrari for a drive on a random Wednesday, right? Oh, what are you doing, Blue Cruise? Calm down there. All right. So it's just a reality, right? Because you're working a lot. You may be on business trips or just long hours. You don't have time to just go for fun drives all the time like a kid or something else. So I think that's part of it too. And I'm sad to say I fell into that position where I was like, I'm always on trips. I am always working. By the time I get home, I am so tired. I just don't have the energy or time to take this car for a drive. So they end up not getting driven or used much at all. So the two lessons learned from that experience was be very deliberate with what you pick to put in your garage, and then also do your best to try to enjoy them, and don't fall in the trap of like, I want 7 different cars. I want my track toy. I want my daily driver. I want my off-road truck. I want my supercar. I want this and this and that. It becomes a little bit difficult to manage and juggle. Something else I also realized when I was looking through all the cars I've owned, all of my sports cars have been naturally aspirated. Every single one. Oh, I guess does the i8 count? i8 sort of counts, but like 2 R8s, the Shelby, the Boss 302, the Z06, right? I clearly have a affinity towards these naturally aspirated, high-revving sports cars, and the Shelby 350R out of all of them still feels the most special to me for a couple reasons. That engine is just unique. It really is an engine that I didn't expect them to make, and honestly, like, almost didn't exist or shouldn't exist because it was so on the ragged edge. I remember when it first came out, allegedly, Ferrari had said that you cannot make a flat plane crank V8 with a displacement over 4.5 liters, like the 458, without it shaking itself to pieces. It just cannot be done. It can't be balanced. So the 458 was allegedly like the limit of an NA flat plane crank V8. Ford did it, 5.2 liters, much bigger, and the NVH was pretty bad. There were early reports of Shelby 350s essentially like shaking the oil, the plugs out of the vehicle, and it like having issues, right? They had to change the torque spec for the oil filter. There was failures from all sorts of different things. It was like a intense race feeling engine. I think they put like this giant like rubber donut to help dampen some of the vibrations on it. So it was an engine that almost shouldn't have existed, but it felt special. Naturally aspirated, revving to over 8,000 RPM. It has such a distinctive, unique sound. And then it was paired to a fantastic Tremex 6-speed manual. It had track capabilities. It wasn't the fastest thing out there, right? If you compared a 350 or a 350R to a Camaro ZL1 or ZL1 1LE of that era, the ZL1 had a supercharged LT4 making substantially more power and way more torque. So from a pure capabilities standpoint, you would say a ZL1 is faster, right? It's more and more and more, but it, to me, did not have the emotion, the intangible buzziness that you get from, buzziness, is that the right word? Like the fizz that you get from driving the car. And to me, a sports car is an emotional, engaging experience. So the Shelby is still very special. The R's are pretty rare. The values, I think, are going to continue to hold and climb. So I do want to try to buy one of those again and hopefully keep it forever. I said that when I first had it, and things changed, so I kind of learned a lesson of like, people say, oh, I'm going to keep this car forever. Situations always evolve, situations change, but I'm going to try to keep the Z06 forever and the Shelby forever and continue to kind of add on there and see, but be very deliberate. I personally think the 350R makes me as excited and happy to drive it as anything up to and maybe exceeding $250,000. For the longest time, my dream manual car was a Porsche GT3, a 991.2 GT3 manual, and I was like, I'll sell the Shelby and get that, and that's my perfect peak manual car. Well, I think actually I'd rather have the Shelby at this point for the money, especially. It's just more of a, it's just as exciting to me. The GT3 might be a little bit more precise and a little bit faster, more capable, and a little more exotic and more respected, right? But to me, the Shelby, I think, is the perfect blend of all of it. And that also kind of leads into a thing of when you're buying these cars, buy them for yourself. Who cares what social media thinks? Who cares what YouTube thinks? Who cares what Instagram thinks, what other people are going to say at car shows? Buy them for yourself. Because to a lot of people, they look down on the Shelby. Maybe it's just a Mustang. I've had people say the same thing about my Z06. It's just a Corvette. It's just a Chevy. It's never going to be a Ferrari. Well, who cares? I don't care that a Porsche GT3 has a higher market value or gets a better parking spot at the valet or gets front row at Cars and Coffee compared to a Shelby, which is just a Mustang. I buy it for myself to drive and enjoy, and I would absolutely say buy the cars that you truly love. If you love a Honda S2000 over a Porsche or a McLaren or whatever, and that makes you just as happy, you're better off because that thing's going to cost a lot less and you're going to have way more smiles. Do not buy it just for the sake of showing off at Cars and Coffee or on social media, because I think in today's day and age, we're getting just so ingrained on that. If it doesn't do well, if it doesn't get you 1,000 likes on Instagram, then it's not worth it, right? If we were playing that game, everybody would just buy Lamborghinis because they're the only things that seem to work on social media, like, right? Everybody loves Lamborghinis. But buy the car that makes you happy. And I know for a fact that the 350R makes me happy. And another thing is, I don't think it's simply a power game either, right? There's this like sweet spot intersection of enough power that it's fast and capable and exciting, but at the same time, you can enjoy it without going to jail. The GT500 is an evolution on the 350R-ish, right? But the formula changed with supercharged 5.2, cross-plane crank, dual clutch, no manual. It is a ridiculous Mustang, peak Shelby in that regard. Like power, performance, like it's pretty crazy. But, you know, I drove it, spent time with it, did a massive burnout in it, but never dreamed about owning a GT500. I always dreamed about the 350R because of the sound, the NA feel. Same thing. For that money, could have gone to Z01 1LE at the time. You could have probably bought a GTR or a Turbo S, right? But to me, the 350R was just more special, and special cars like that are few and far between. Kind of similarly on this topic also is cars that I regret. So this is the one car I regret selling, a car that I regret not buying. I was thinking about that too. This is probably 2018-ish. I think I had bought my R8 Spider. I had an opportunity to buy a Mercedes SLS AMG Coupe, the proper gull-wing, but it had higher miles. It was like 35,000 miles. I'm like, I don't know if I want a 35,000 mile like Mercedes supercar, but the price was a bit high out of my range, like 130. Oh man, should have bought that car, right? Hindsight is 2020. I think the cheapest SLS for sale, there is one for like $100,000, but it has like 2 or 3 accidents on it, and it's a convertible, so no gull wings, and those are usually cheaper than the actual proper coupes with the gull wings. Most of them are like 200 grand and up now, right? So that's a regret. Should have bought that SLS AMG. Another car, this one's a slightly lesser scale, but in 2020, I was bidding on Bring a Trailer for a Aston Martin Vantage manual. It was a 4.7 liter black. It had some of the V12 parts on it, but it was a manual V8. And I think I got to my mental budget. I was like, I don't want to go over 40. I got to my 43,000 bidding and then it sold for 45, but I tapped out at 43. I was like, nah, I'm not going to keep going. Man, that would have been a fun car to own, right? A manual transmission Aston Martin Vantage. That's a little bit of a regret too. But I also try not to regret not buying cars, and I do my best to not regret selling cars too, because again, hindsight is 2020. If we're playing that game, we also should have like leveraged every single asset, sold kidneys, done whatever, taken out a 144-month loan and bought Carrera GTs. Or like gated manual Murcielagos or anything. Or I guess if you really want to play that game, you should all bought like Apple or an Nvidia stock or something. Back to hands-free. Man, traffic sucks. Ugh, my ETA is dropping. Sorry, Henry. But that's the car I regret selling out of everything. And it is a special, special car, and I'm going to look for one again. I can't buy one this year because, 1, getting married, so spending money on that. 2, going to buy my now fiance, but soon to be wife, a car, and also buy a house. So funds are all going that way. Just have the Z06 right now, but I am making it a goal next year to buy a Shelby GT350R, and this time I want to get a 19 or a 20 in a cool color and just keep it, drive it, enjoy it. Probably do a couple of little tweaks that I did. I did aftermarket wheels on mine. I changed out some of the lights to make them a little bit more modern, and also the exhaust valve controller, because that makes the cold starts very nice, because otherwise the factory behavior for the 350 is like you cold start and the valves have to do an open close check, so it like goes like loud quiet, and it's really annoying. So an aftermarket valve controller solves that. I want a 350R again. I do miss that car. I do miss that car all the time. I tell everybody that's the one car I regret selling. What do you regret selling? Comment below. You've owned different cars. What do you regret selling? What do you regret not buying? Do you own your dream car? If you do, never sell it. So yeah, that's this week's Sunset Drives talk, or more like Sunset Traffic Jam talks, because we're heading downtown. Luckily, I have Blue Cruise. Oh, I should turn my massage seats on. This thing has massage seats. We'll go massage. There we go. Full recovery. That works. Oh, watch the road. It does get very... Yeah, I'm watching. Calm down. I'm watching. It gets a little bit finicky when you look away. You saw that was very quick. I was just looking at the center screen there. But there's this week's Sunset Drives video. Comment below if you'd like to see any other specific topics covered. Check out the ones from previous. I did one on how to balance having a full-time job and do YouTube. I did one on potential variants that Corvette could do. Chevy could build different versions of the C8, and the first one I did was on how it went from engineering to marketing. Hope you guys enjoyed this casual conversational video talking about the one car I regret selling and some of the lessons learned from all the cars I've owned, bought, and sold. Comment below what car you regret selling. Thanks for watching.